Hi, my name is Jess and I'm from Zuda Yoga in Sacramento, California. And today I am going to be talking about both double pigeon and cow face pose and different ways to get into them, different ways to prep for them, and then modifications. So usually if I know that I'm going to incorporate these poses into my class, I like to start the class in a butterfly pose. So just taking the soles of your feet together and your knees out wide, sitting up really nice and tall, and then reaching back and removing whatever extra is underneath you. And we all have a little bit of extra, so just getting really tall in your spine. And then folding forward, and your forehead does not need to meet your feet, just letting your forehead land wherever it naturally does. Another preparatory pose to come into both double pigeon and cow face pose would just to be come into a dragonfly twist. So you can take one foot forward and then curl your back set of toes under. Your inside hand, so the left hand will go down to the inside of the right foot. And get really tall in the back leg, but then drop down into your hips. So you're opening through your hips, you're prepping for those two shapes. If it feels good, you can take your arm up, look up. And so those are two shapes, both dragonfly twist and Wanderlust that I like to do for preps on those shapes. So now we'll move into some of the method to get into both cow face pose and double pigeon. So for double pigeon, you'll take your shin, and for just the purposes here, we'll start with the left shin, as close to parallel with the short side of your mat. And you're gonna dorsiflex your left set of toes. And so when you do this, you're protecting your left knee. You'll take your right foot and you'll bring your right foot to the outside of your left knee. And then what tends to happen is then the teacher says, well, now stack your shins. And so we end up like here. Instead, you'll take your foot down, keep the foot so the ankle doesn't move from where it is, and you're just gonna bring your knee down. So you can see my ankle, I can actually see the little bone here. It's still on the outside of my left knee. And then as much as you can, you'll sit both hip bones down so you can really create the stretch across the backs of your hips. And then even my right set of toes, dorsiflex, so both feet flexed. And if you need a reminder for that, as you start to fold forward, you'll just take your hands down on your feet and just press your hands into your feet, and it will intensify the stretch across the back of your hips. Now some folks, this just does not work, and you can even tell I have maybe an inch or so in between my knee and my shin. Other folks will be way up here, and it just the way your hips are oriented, the way your femur bone sits into your hip socket, a lot of different things happening. So if this is you don't feel a stretch here, you can start to come into cow face pose. And so I like to prep for this by coming onto both knees and then crossing my right knee on top of my left. So I'm as close as possible here, and then I work my feet out away from one another. Once I'm here, I sit down, again, point both sets of toes back toward my face or back towards my knees, take my hands, and I fold forward. So if neither of those two shapes are accessible in your body, so cow face pose, double pigeon, it just doesn't work, you can't feel the stretch, instead of trying to force your body into a shape that you're not even creating a stretch in the target area, there's so many, I like to think of it as families of poses. And so there's so many different poses within a family that you can do to create a stretch in your hips. And so you could go back to the very first pose that we started class with, which is just taking the soles of your feet together, and you can choose, if it feels better to take your feet out closer from the center of your body or further away or closer, and then folding in half, bringing your arms up until you can create a stretch across the backs of your hips, and letting your head and your neck go.